taking the time.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
So you're out this summer running for Secretary of State.
I am.
And you're just out putting up signs, right?
Yeah, so forgive the casual dress. It's hot out and I'm out in the weeds. So I've got jeans and a t-shirt and a button on. But yeah, we're getting signs up all across the state.
You ain't never got to ask for forgiveness for being out putting up signs. It is an enormous state, isn't it? I mean,
it really is. And I'm not much for efforting metrics. I think some of these candidates kind of want to talk about how far they've driven or all these things. And you won't see that on my social media. You're going to just maybe run into me at the Walmart somewhere in Chillicothe.
You may think your candidate hustles. Nobody has put the miles in the last 4 years that Mike Keogh has. My God, that dude is every freaking where. I mean, now he's got the bus, so it's hard to miss him, but it's incredible to me the number of people he's kind of brought back into politics or excited. And I think the only way he's done is by just going and seeing him.
Well, anybody who meets him can't help but be impressed with his personal story, with his capacity, with his competency. And he's certainly trying to make sure he personally meets every primary voter, I think, in the state.
Speaking of primary voters, I have watched you talk quite a bit about illegals voting.
Yeah.
What can you do as Secretary of State to keep the Mexicans from voting? Not the ones in Audrain County, but the ones south of the border.
Well, unfortunately, it's not even just Mexicans who are coming into the state over the border. Governor Parson recently said that we had 77,000 illegals in the state of Missouri. And if you think not one of them has tried to vote, I got oceanfront property in Audrain County to sell you. But we are got to do a better job to make sure that we are auditing our voter rolls, that we are ensuring that right now, if you want to register to vote, you just go up to the library or the DMV, you fill out a form. If you don't have your social security number, you can leave it blank. It doesn't matter. If you don't know your driver's license, you can leave it blank. It doesn't matter. You can fill out the form online. And then there's just a little thing at the bottom that says, oh, by the way, this is illegal to register to vote if you're not a citizen. But there's no way to enforce that. There's no
All right. Have you met one Miguel, one Maria, one Jorge, one illegal person that's voted? Have you met one?
Can you prove that they haven't? Not one clerk in the entire state.
He's legal. I've seen his cards. Kelton, are you legal to vote?
I am.
El Keltono. Muy bien, Kelton, for registered to vote. I understand.
Kelton being the most Hispanic of all Hispanic sounding names.
Yeah. Keltino. I get the politics, and I trust me.
It's not just Mexicans who are coming across the border, right? Like we have people on the terrorist watch list.
Well, they know Muhammad's registered to vote in Audrain County.
Well, but maybe in St. Louis they're trying to.
Well, they do things weird in St. Louis.
Exactly, and as the Secretary of State, as the chief election,
I'm just going to ask you how the
I'm going to make sure we will not.
Can you tell me of any old boy that came up across the border, Juan? Can you tell me a Juan that voted?
Can you tell me that they aren't any that have?
Now, if Yadier Molina votes, I'm for that. He should get 5 votes, frankly.
Well, he should become a citizen if he wants to vote in the state of Missouri.
What if you've won a World Series? Should you automatically be entitled to vote?
No, but you should automatically be entitled to citizenship. And then you can vote.
I guess same thing. So, as your Secretary of State, right now, I don't know how this works. So let's say you go register to vote and you go to St. Louis, where they probably have a lax thing. And so Juan Valdez comes up, he gets done making coffee, and he goes up and he registers to vote.
Gomez, maybe.
Noriega Gomez. We'll get to her. And they register to vote. Does the Secretary of State even look at that, or does it just go in the county rolls and then it's automatically in the state rolls?
That's right. It goes on the county rolls, and the county clerks would have to verify somehow. And right now, there isn't a system in place for them to do that. Because if somebody registers to vote and then they go to vote with a voter ID, which is good, then they can vote. And there is no way to ensure that everybody who's filled out those forms are citizens of this country or residents of Missouri.
You have like Jorge Noriega. And he's there, he's registered, and he's a citizen. Like them old boys that frankly Denny and Rick and them was giving hell to, that guy.
That guy have he had the most Czechoslovakian sounding, mid-Western kind of sounding.
Well, his picture looked kind of dark complected. And so I think that was wrong. I think the old boy should sue, and he should just stack his money. He deserves a thing of money. But my point is that guy. Well, you wouldn't want that. That guy's a citizen. He has every right as much to vote as Kelton.
The way that you stop it is by making sure you can't register to vote without having your picture ID with you when you register, because you have to have something when you go to show up to vote. Make sure you have it. So right now, if you don't have your social security number, or you don't have your voter ID card you got from the Secretary of State's office, or you don't have a driver's license with a photo on it, it doesn't matter. You can still fill out that paperwork. And so
my point
is,
you go to the legislature and get them done. I mean, you've
well,
passed bills before.
I think we can do that by rulemaking. I don't think that the legislature has to pass that, because it's already the law that you have to be a citizen to vote.
Then why hadn't Jay done that?
Listen, I think he's done a tremendous amount to take the
I think he has
office
too,
from being one of the least secure. We were ranked like, I don't know, 38th or 39th, and now we're third in the country for election integrity. There's more work that needs to be done, but I have to tell you, this hasn't gotten done yet. And if you want to make sure that we are only allowing citizens to vote in the state of Missouri, then I'm your candidate.
All right, let's talk. As always, whatever you do, it's so funny. It always catches more hell and more attention and more praise than anybody I actually know. Honestly, in my entire phone, I don't know more people, a bigger heat magnet than you. And I watched you. There's pictures where you have these Palestinian protesters in front of your damn house, not your Capitol office over here, but in front of your actual house. Is that real?
Yeah, that's real. If you look at this photo, it's so funny as you see Chris Coleman just mowing the lawn. Like, he's like, whatever, guys, like, just totally unbothered. Like, you stay on the sidewalk. You've got a First Amendment right to say whatever you want, but we're going to carry on doing what we're going to do.
Look, I'll tell you, I don't have as much sympathy for the Palestinian cause as I do the Israeli cause. Let's be honest with you. But I lose all sympathy for their cause when they're out at someone's house. You know, you have a taxpayer-funded office that you won by all rights, and to me, if they want to go stand out in front of your office and protest, by God, fine.
Yeah, come do it.
Go bug Seth all day long. Good for you. But going to someone's actual home, I think it sets your cause back a great deal if you're out protesting.
Listen, it seems like whether it's
what do they want?
Well, I don't know.
What do they want you to do? You're state senator. What can you do?
What's so funny is the first time that they showed up, I went out there and took them Topo Chicos because it was hot out. And I thought maybe they want to drink while they're standing out
What is that?
here.
Is that something like illegals that are waiting to vote drink? What is the Topo Chico?
No, they're like the seltzers but they taste a little bit better than the White Claws or whatever. Anyways.
Oh, I got to show you something.
Yeah.
As you know, you've made me a few. I'm a Captain Morgan guy.
Yes,
Rock got
that's
Captain
right.
Morgan. I was out on the road
double
yesterday.
With 2 limes and
2 limes.
Diet Coke.
You don't get scurvy that way. And I'm very loyal to Captain Morgan. Just the rock gut dollar store Captain Morgan. But I was in Saline County.
Yeah.
1832 Distilling out of Concordia.
That stuff's good.
I mean, outstanding. It's all made, every ingredient's made there in Concordia. And he's telling me how you can kind of see a little bit, it'll settle because it doesn't have the same preservatives in a Captain. Yeah. And I am picky. I just be honest with you. You can bring me the nicest wine, the nicest rums. You always tell at Christmas time, people that know me buy me Captain Morgan in the plastic jug. People that don't buy me very nice rums, and they all sit back there and I give them away. This is actually very good. And seeing this, you got to check this out. Connor's Pheasants. Go on a pheasant hunt there. Just up there, about a little bit east of town.
Are you allowed to say that on, I guess?
Well, I think,
I don't know if Kelton, can people read what it says? I don't know if you're allowed
to say that. Well, it says Connor's Pheasant Prairie.
Yeah.
And it obviously, there's tagline, it's big cock country. I'll let folks ask Casey whether I ought to be wearing this or not, but until she tells me I can't, I'm going to put on here. They're good folks. I had a great time up there. I mean, it is Curtis Gregory turns out a ton of locals. And anymore, that used to be the case back in the day with the old contribution limits when they took the majority.
I heard that Monday his golf tournament just had a tremendous turnout.
And it was probably 3/4 local.
Yeah.
I always think that's interesting. And it's just something you don't see very often. So these protests.
Somebody told me in my first race that if you could get 100 people in district to give you $100, there's no way anybody could beat a state rep candidate who'd done that.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I did.
And you
flipped
a seat,
I flipped the seat.
It's always interesting. I've seen folks like Betsy Fogel and them. Flipping a seat's hard.
It's hard.
You either got to catch some ridiculous lucky break, or if you don't catch that silver bullet, it is hard.
You just got to work.
And people make it out to be too easy. They make it out to be, this, you want to stay down. No, the hell you can't. It's very tough. A lot of very accomplished good people have lost state rep races. It's a big deal. So these some bitches come to your house. And they set up outside, and what do they want you to do? Come out and say what?
I honest to God have no idea. I asked them, again, when I tried to bring them a drink, they were very offended that I tried to bring them a drink.
I ain't Christian to them. Well, I guess
Well, they're not Christian, I guess.
That's probably why they ain't Christian about it.
But I don't know. And it's interesting. Every day this last session, we had protesters at the office, at the intersection near my house, in front of my house. And the only thing I can explain for it is the left hates women who are conservative, who are getting things done.
Well, I do think there is a part of an ethos of a person on the left. They are not very tolerant. I would say they're less tolerant than Republicans.
It has been my experience that the left is not particularly tolerant, and
especially of women. I watched that. I think you're right about that.
Yeah, you get heat about being a working mom, not from the right, but from the left. And I don't know about you,
but abortion. You're very identified with the abortion issue in
correct.
The state. And I think probably the reason you are is because
I get things done. I mean, I was the architect of the Missouri Stands for the Unborn Act, which ended abortion in the state of Missouri. This last session, when a historically low number of bills got done, I was able to shepherd through and carry the bill that ended funding for Planned Parenthood in the state of Missouri. So when you want something done, you go and you ask them, frankly, you ask a busy mom, because she's not going to mess around. She's not playing games. We're just getting things done.
I also think a woman is a much more effective messenger on the abortion issue. Just common sense. It is what it is. I think I personally hear people talk about abortion all the time and what I do. And to me, I set up a little straighter when a woman talks about it than a man. Mm-hmm. I just think by common sense and abortion, that issue is more closely related in the minds of Missourians and women. Speaking of, you got you got it passed. Now there's a thing on the ballot.
Yeah.
Well,
we don't know yet. So right now they gathered a tremendous number of signatures, but you have to gather signatures in 6 of the 8 congressional districts. And we haven't yet seen the certification process yet, whether they've gotten
I'll bet you beer they get on. Well, I mean, honestly.
We'll see.
It's likely that it's on the ballot, right?
There's a tremendous number of signatures they collected.
I think did the Republicans make a mistake in fighting with each other and trying to rig the rules and put all these little provisions in about all this little distraction bullshit? Would they not have been better off organizing a campaign to win? What is the message of the campaign to not pass this IP, which I think is likely to be on the ballot?
If it makes it on the ballot, I think that you are going to see a united front fighting this initiative petition. It is not a return to Roe, which is how it's being marketed. It is very extreme. And I'd encourage anybody who's watching to read the language, not the blurb that the courts wrote, but what the actual language is. In particular, look at Article 5, because it gets rid of all medical malpractice for women who are harmed during an abortion. It says that not even a doctor has to be the one who performs an abortion, any quote unquote medical professional. Well, that could be a receptionist.
That could be Kelton.
And I mean, if you worked as a receptionist at the Planned Parenthood clinic, do you count as a medical professional? The courts are going to have to decide that. And we are going to see women being hurt at historic levels, and all of the protections in place. Listen, you can say whatever you want about Missourians, but Missourians are pro-life. We passed the first pro-life bill in the country in the 1800s.
Let me just straight up ask you, are they as pro-life as the current law is?
Well, they're certainly not as radical as this IP is. And the IP that has been put forward would allow abortion up until birth for any mental health reason, any physical reason whatsoever, not performed by doctors. And I don't think Missourians are going to go for that.
I've always kind of felt like folks wanted you to just not talk about it so much, and it to not be something that I guess in some rare cases existed. And they kind of...
Well, that was the Democrats' position, right? Remember, they wanted it to be safe, legal, and rare.
Bill Clinton, yeah.
And now they've completely given up safe and rare, and all they care about is legal.
Yeah, I think the people of Missouri are safe, legal, and rare. And I think they're extremely rare.
Exceptionally rare. Life of the mother exceptions, which the law currently provides.
I have to think, as closely identified as you are with this issue, and as high profile of a legislator as you are, you've heard from folks that would talk about rape and incest. And I personally don't consider myself an expert enough to have any educated opinion, but I would think a story like that would pull at my heartstrings a little bit. Does it yours?
Of course. Rape is the worst thing that could ever happen to a person. And when we talk about that level of violence that is going against and hurting women, anybody who doesn't have a reaction to that is really a monster. I mean, I just think that that's why the left uses these people. And what I would beg people to do is not to use people who have had the worst thing ever happen to them, to make sure we have really strong laws to go after the people who have hurt them and harmed them, and then to listen to the people who actually were raped and conceived, and to listen to the voices of the people who were conceived and raped. And when you talk to those people, what they say is that their life has value too, and they're tired of being a talking point for the left. And what they would like to see happen is to have the media ask the left, okay, so you think that this is not appropriate. Tell me where you think the line is. Do you think you should be able to have an abortion up until the day the baby is born? Most of them won't even answer no anymore. And so my point is, let's stop using the worst thing that has ever happened to somebody as a talking point, and instead strengthen our laws, make sure we're punishing the perpetrator, and that we're protecting
a little
women.
hyperbole on both sides of the abortion issue, though, right? I mean, it does feel to me like the law may be a little further than where regular folks are in Missouri. This IP is going to come back like every extremism. You, at some point, when you go down the road of extremism, it's going to come back the other way.
But this isn't a return to Roe.
I never thought it was a good idea to make abortion policy in the courts. Never thought it was a good idea to make it an IP. I think the legislature is better. But
then if you don't like it, you can throw people out of office like me who write the laws. And there isn't a way to go and fix it when people say, oh my God, I didn't realize that if my wife was hurt, my daughter was hurt in this procedure, that we don't have any medical malpractice suit that can be against the physician who hurt her. That's what this is going to do.
It surprised me some of the MATA senators were okay with that. I think they'd be sticking up. Let's it pivots back to me.
Well, MATA doesn't have any senators. They have friends who are senators, but I don't think any member of MATA is in the Senate. Well, that's not true, because Nick's now a plaintiff's lawyer, so maybe.
Yeah,
maybe he's joined them.
I don't know if Nick has a card, but I think he understands their issues enough to advocate for them pretty aggressively. Back to these protesters. At some point, I mean, to me, the first time they showed up out there, I'd have been a little worried. I mean, hell, you say what you will. Maybe I'm just a simple hillbilly, but I mean, people that care about the Muslim cause have been known to get a little riled up.
It was certainly not ideal. Actually, I wasn't home the first time they showed up. Chris was home with the kids, and I was at the grocery store. I was at Walmart of all places, and I had to tell him no.
Yeah, I could see his first reaction being somebody's better get an ass whooping.
It was not a good idea. And then they showed up again and again. And then interestingly, the protests that happened in the city of St. Louis, the chancellor of Washington had a lot of those guys arrested when they trespassed on their property. And we haven't had those guys show up since they were arrested there.
So you're running for Secretary of State. I got to ask you the first thing, if it's a big field.
Yeah, tremendous, huge.
We'll talk about some campaign strategy, but if I was you, there's this gal, Valentina Gomez. And if I was you, I'd be frustrated. If I was Denny or if I was Shane, she makes what are frankly very watchable videos, and they're very funny. But it would be frustrating if I was you. This person's going off spouting off saying this crazy shit. And then you get asked about it, and you're out actually like putting up signs in Missouri. If I was you, I'd start to get a little saddle worn about that.
No, listen, everybody's going to run the race that they're going to run, and Twitter's not a real place, so I'm going to keep campaigning. And if
Twitter was real, Steve Roberts would have 10 opponents, but Twitter's not really; it has 0 opponents.
It's just not a real place, and so people will find out that candidates who are primarily online candidates aren't running the same race that I am. And I'm focused on trying to get to Missourians across the state, get our message out that if they want a Secretary of State who's going to stop illegals from voting in Missouri, that I'm their girl.
So where y'all you been since session got out?
I mean, where haven't I been? We have
it's a big state.
It's a really big state. I could spend a little bit more time in Northeast Missouri, and that is on the docket. We're going to be headed up there.
Oh, Hannibal's so nice.
No, I've been to Hannibal.
You can spend the whole weekend
Hannibal is fantastic. Downtown. But I mean, even further north.
You go on up where the honey war started up in Clark County. Oh, if you're not the most politically correct person I know, you got to go to Putnam County and see the Putnam County Midgets. That's their high school mascot. It's a terrific place. Scotland County is beautiful. I tell you that you want to see an interesting. Yeah. If you've ever been interested in Pepsi, up in Northeast Missouri, if there's a Diet Coke in a gas station, it's in the very bottom somewhere.
It's all Pepsi all the time up there.
The biggest Pepsi distributorship in the world is up there in Memphis, Missouri. They have a whole a museum of all the old Pepsi stuff. That place has Northeast Missouri on lock. If you go into a restaurant and order a Coke, the whole place gets quiet. Like, what? What do you? It's like going to the Baptist church and ordering a malt liquor. But Northeast Missouri is wonderful. Tell me, what's been your favorite place you've been to so far?
So I think my favorite place probably has been Lee Summit. We just had a wonderful time meeting with people there.
That's the worst answer I've
Oh,
ever
come
heard. I mean,
on.
shit, that's just.
But I was not expecting to love it there, and we had just such a warm reception.
This is the worst answer I've ever heard.
Okay, but I will tell you, this is what people expect, is to think like this is just pass through. We're not really going to stop, and we just had.
Well, that's how they do Lee Summit. They pass through and make money, then they get the hell out of there when they can afford to retire. It's like the Chesterfield of the West.
It's fun. No, there were such good people there. It was
There's
wonderful.
a Searpoys.
Okay.
I like Patterson. Well, there's tackle houses.
See?
I guess I do go there. But
Come
boy,
on.
Lee Summit. Give me a good answer.
Well,
Let's try. Let take two. Where's the best place you've been to in Missouri?
okay. Well, my favorite place then is, if it were just Chris and I that were going and it wasn't out campaigning, is St. John. We had a wonderful time in St. John. Phenomenal place.
You go to that Green Tavern.
I was just going to say,
yeah.
Green Tavern, you got to go there. You got to get a beer, and there's just so many good people, and the church there is just beautiful. So we had a wonderful time.
Yeah, they got a great bar. It's kind of funny, but when you walk in there, there's a great bar right downtown, and you got now Airbnbs you can stay in around the wineries.
They're so cute.
But you walk into that bar, this funniest thing. Went in there and I smelled something. I was like, what the hell? I was like, something on fire, and they were smoking. And I've just gotten so used to people not smoking in bars. Now, used to, I didn't even notice when I go in because there was everywhere you went, they did.
Fine.
But now, that's not a good taste. That one downtown.
Yeah.
Hell, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a great bar. But if you're in there
it's a dive bar right on that corner.
Well, we like to call them white trash bars, but yes. And that smoke just hits you. It reminds me of the Cottage Inn back in Poplar Bluff. So about the race. Now, my assumption would be you got Denny running. I called it Hypocrisy Week here in Jeff City the week after session. 1 week, it's the Swamp. Next week, hey, can you send me some of that swamp money in my campaign here? So Denny's leaving. He's not, but the VLT people got to kick him a check, right? A healthy one.
We'll see what happens.
I mean, if they don't,
we'll see what happens.
It's going to be hard to go in an office next year and say like, oh, we're going to back you. If you help us, we're going to back you. Be like, Denny made his whole career you, and you didn't back him.
And he didn't get it done.
He didn't get it done, but he stopped them from doing things to go around him. I would say the VLT people cut him a check, but he ain't coming back to the legislature. Shane, good dude, got a Southwest Missouri base. Schwadron, St. Charles, a little bit of votes there, a little bit of money there, but not put together a lot of money yet. He's not coming back. Dean Plocker's got some money in the bank. Don't know how much of he's adding to that, but if you're sitting down with a donor, they cut you a check, right? You're the Secretary of State. That's wonderful. You go stop everyone in Audrain County from voting. None of them can vote anymore. None of their cousins from old Mexico. None of the people from Mexico, Missouri. No Mexicans vote.
This is fake news. We need that button that you can push in Trump's language or Trump's voice. Fake news. This is fake news.
Bullshit button.
Audrain County is absolutely happy to vote.
The Mexicans in Audrain County can vote, but nowhere else.
Well, only the citizens.
Yeah. But seriously, if you're sitting down writing the check with a donor, it's got to be helpful that, let's say you come up short in August. Well, you're back in the Senate for 2 years, going to be rising in prominence, probably joined by some of the people that you consider friends and allies from the House. I would say if I'm talking to an interest group, that's probably a pretty persuasive point that you don't even have to bring up.
Yeah, listen, we're really focused on what our race is and not what everybody else is putting together. And we have had some very successful fundraising efforts the last couple of weeks. Those are ramping up. Point
that probably you don't even have to say on the phone, right?
Correct.
But they know.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point hammering people about those things? And I've never found that saying true things out loud is helpful. In fact, sometimes those things come back to bite you a little bit.
That's true. I got to think right now. My buddy Carl sent me this. I love this Stein. It's an absolutely terrific Stein.
Liberty Bell, look at that.
Knob Nostri. It's got the Liberty Bell on top. I want to thank, when Chris comes to town, where do you put Chris up? I mean, you want Chris to stay somewhere nice, so he'll come over more often. Where do you put him up?
So Chris always stays at the Marriott. But I don't think we're supposed to talk about where people stay, because then, with the protesters always me down.
Chris stays at the Doubletree every time. Actually, he stays in Columbia. That's when Chris comes over. The whole Coleman family stays in Columbia. Keep that goofy shit out of Jeff City. We're about to shut that bridge down. That's going to help us a lot.
Oh,
I'm stoked for the bridge to get shut down.
Oh my gosh,
it's going to be so great.
The for those homeless who can't come make it across via 50. We're going to all be fine. But anybody else, it's like whatever.
Honestly, everywhere if I go, I can go 50 either way. You can just close the bridge for good as far as I'm concerned. I don't need to go to Columbia for anything. I'm totally good.
You're fine with them not coming
totally.
here.
Homeless people can't make it down. I actually think we have to revisit the concept of the bridge totally. It could be the Roy Blunt Ferry. It costs $10,000 to come across, and just keep all the goofs and the homeless stuff up there. While we're sitting here talking, you do a few things as Secretary of State. The ballot language. I would assume being a lawyer is a little helpful in writing ballot language because all this stuff goes to the courts anyway.
Yeah.
You might be able to sift through their other rulings and find out how to write something that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. We want to make sure that voters know what they're voting on and they're getting an honest assessment of what the language is that's in front of them and what's it going to do. And so I think that you have seen Jay Ashcroft, frankly, do a really good job at that. And you want to make sure that people are getting the truth and the whole truth. Now, you also want to be careful that you say in language that is not going to be immediately overturned. And I think that our Supreme Court has continued to involve themselves in ways that I find frustrating. And so if we want to keep them out of writing, you've got to have somebody who knows what they're doing and somebody who's going to make sure that they are competent and putting forward a truthful version of what's actually going to be on the ballot.
Well, I think you've ruled on enough of these now.
Yeah.
There should be some parameters. Not me, but a certain person to be able to figure out if you're a lawyer. Okay, here's too far. Here's too far. We got to keep this. I mean, the one thing about having a lot of opinions on something is I would think it would give you a pretty good path.
There's a lot of guidance out there on how to keep it between the ditches and the sunny side up, as my father-in-law would say. And
do folks read all that stuff at the ballot?
I don't know. I don't think so. It gets to be pretty wordy.
I wonder how many people vote for Trump. They'll come down, and vote in Congress.
That'd be an interesting thing of like, where is the drop off? Maybe when you turn the page, do people just not turn it over and do the other side of it? Halfway down.
I get tired of it. I mean, if you're in the cities, you don't have every county office, but I think there's 13 county offices. They're on every other time. So you got about 6 or 8 offices you got to click through. Most of them are unopposed.
Yeah. So we've got at least 2 IPs on the ballot or not IPs, but ballot initiatives in August. There's going to be more probably in November, looking like maybe 3. You've got how many federal races that are up?
You got the one thing I watched the court. The court, I don't say they backed down to the governor, but the governor wanted the Kansas City cops thing on in August, and the court didn't. And it looked as though they found a way to acquiesce to the governor on that. Then there was something else I think the legislature put on, right? So is it illegal voting?
Yeah, that's right. So
what are you going to do all day if before you even get there, all the Mexicans are out of voting?
Well, you have to figure out a way to make sure that happens right now. Yeah. And right now we don't have a way to audit the voter rolls. We don't have a way to make sure that when you're registering to vote, you are a citizen. So we'll put some parameters.
People are afraid to give you their social security number because they think the state will give it out and they'll have to deal with a bunch of online horse shit.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. People want to make sure that they're protecting their personal information. And so if you show up in person and you show those documentations, there's no reason we need to keep that as a record, but you should have it verified in person at least, or provide it for us to check it out.
And is there a way right now you can go in and audit the rolls?
Well, right now, I think it's going to be difficult. I think we'll have to go in and work on how to do that. There isn't a mechanism in place.
The truth is, I always thought they don't give you a lot of teeth in that job to actually go into. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, yeah, even like in securities law, right? So securities law is a really important piece of that office, and it has investigative authority, but no prosecutorial authority. So making sure you've got a great working relationship.
You did know Kelton run an illegal sports book all spring.
Well,
just telling you, I'm not a rat, but I mean,
that seems awfully ratty.
Well, I'll tell you what, who don't, the folks at United Electric Co-op get you a drink while you're going up down the road. That Yeti's cold. That internet is the fastest internet in Northeast Missouri. I always have to tell you every time you come in, you talked about schools. I used to be like, oh, there's no way. Then I met my corn man.
I think you were upset that I wasn't prom queen. That was your line.
That was a great joke too. I had so many great lines. But John Combest made me my favorite thing I've ever been gifted in the world. It's my own corn man thing. I met my corn man. I have to say, you were right. I was wrong. You were very smart. I'm very stupid. You are attractive. I am very unfortunate looking. You have vision. I'm blind. And you were right about the whole thing. Here's the you on the schools. I don't
even have anything to choose you with, but I would accept that.
That's Kelton. That's on us. I mean,
I'd be happy to
toast you. I'm sorry, the Palestinians told us not to give you this. We came in. So campaigns. What's one? So your favorite place? God damn, Lee Summit.
Wait, hold on. Take 2 with St. John.
St. Jen's great.
Herman is also. I should have said because really, I mean, if you don't go to just love Herman. And you can ride the train. So
I
lovely.
was so disappointed Schmidt didn't kick his campaign percent off
I
in Herman.
know.
That was a total
It's-
missed opportunity.
And it's so picturesque.
Did you take Gerhardt to Herman?
He's been there.
See,
Yeah.
I would think Gerhardt would be a huge hit in Herman.
Yeah, absolutely. So these, Mary Elizabeth Coleman taking Gerhardt Coleman. You can guess where our alliances lie. So
Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, finally, the German people get a little leg up on something. Let's talk about the end of session before you go. I thought it was you were nice enough to come in there at the end and talk about.
I was so tired. I was thinking back to that interview and wondering if I was even super awake for it.
I appreciate folks that are active,
Mm-hmm.
and I catch a lot of grief from some of the more active folks, but I just tell you what I think, and you could disagree. I'm wrong all the time, and maybe wrong here, but it looked like there is none of the senators in the Freedom Caucus could have got that bill that far. Nobody would have. They wouldn't have cared.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is, you treat people like shit for 6 years, they're going to be very unwilling to do anything for you. Nobody else could have moved that bill as far as you got it moved.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it was a convenient kind of scapegoat move to dump it on you, something that, frankly, it's like anything else. You can kill legislation or pass legislation, and if you're out there treating everybody like shit all day, the burden comes down. Plus, there were a lot of folks that didn't agree with you on IP reform.
Yeah.
Or more for they didn't agree on how. It is a complicated issue.
I think that's more to the point. And what people forget is that this last session, and also the session before, we were one vote away, and we didn't have a Republican majority who agreed on how to reform the process to the point that they'd be able to go. And I think, we caught some flack about not being able to get it to the finish line. And that's the way that goes. I'm happy I've got broad shoulders. I was the man in the arena doing the fight. So
everything you do
fine.
Gets more attention than anything anybody else does.
But
it's just a fact.
Yeah. But listen, that's fine that I got the attention for that. But I was unwilling to do what a small minority of people wanted me to do, which is they wanted me to make a motion to move the previous question, knowing that there were not 18 senators who would agree with that motion.
And why?
And I don't do things that are designed to fail to protect myself politically. I just won't do it.
What was the point when they were like, oh, do this? What was their upside?
They want to go on the record of who wasn't willing to vote to move the previous question. And on a Wednesday at the end of session, we still had time to try to get this done. And I'm unwilling to kill my own legislation for political points. I think these policies are too important to play those kinds of games with. And so, listen, people didn't like that I was unwilling to make a motion that everyone knew would fail.
Everyone knew it would fail.
Everybody did. And
I think it should be harder to amend the Constitution. I think here's my question. This is Monday morning quarterbacking. This is looking back on it. I fully admit that. Do you think that maybe too much time was spent trying to add all these little distractions in and game the system? Do you think it might have been better to just sit down and say, okay, this concurrent majority thing that did pass, your bill that did go through, what if we all just got behind this? Because I think there's a good case to be made to make it harder to amend the Constitution without all the bullshit.
Yeah, I do agree that it would pass. I think if it were on the ballot without the so-called ballot candy, I don't think that making citizens only vote is ballot candy. I think it's vitally important. And because we have SJR 78 that's going to get voted on, we have a path to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
And that happened after we had moved the bill already into the House. So I think that if the House hadn't taken 8 weeks to work on this, we gave it to them relatively early in session and they kind of waited around. And then, if the speaker hadn't asked people not to vote, not to allow this bill to go to conference and not been willing to take it up and pass it, I think we'd have initiative petition reform on the ballot in August. And
I actually think everybody seemed to poo-poo the thought it could pass. I just think it could pass. I actually believed that it could have passed and it would have been, I think there's a very good case to be made. It shouldn't be impossible, but it should be a little harder to amend the Constitution.
I just think rural voices matter. I think if you're from Chillicothe,
Kelton,
you should get
clip that right now.
No, I mean, listen, I think that you should be able to have a say in what our founding documents mean. And if you're only going to go to Kansas City and to St. Louis, and you're never going to show up in Herman, and you're never going to go to Cuba, and you're not going to show up at Jason Bean's farm and tell anybody about what's going on, that's a problem.
I like the Peach Orchard shout out. So going forward, your Secretary of State.
Yeah.
It feels like if you all got, it's the problem to me now is abortion, which is the everything's about abortion, right? Corn Man, how he combs his burr haircuts about abortion somehow. Don't you have to go to get an IP and go against the abortion IP before you fix the IP process totally? I mean, aren't people going to say we can't make it harder to pass an IP now because we want to go pass our own abortion IP?
So what I will say is that I've always said that the initiative petition process protecting our founding documents was about more than just abortion. I understand that because I'm the face of the pro-life movement in Missouri, that people only want to pigeonhole it in that way. But
well, I think it's because you waited until these other states had passed.
Well,
IP.
no, I've been working on it.
But my point is that this was the highest profile discussion, and it was happening against the backdrop of Roe overturned. I mean, I think that's part of it too, but it should have been harder to pass to change the Constitution.
Absolutely.
And it feels like that's a case you could make. Maybe not to flat Doug or Cornman's so damn dumb, but maybe to rash Kelton. You might have been.
I think Doug would agree with that as long as you do some other things that make sense. And that was part of why I was so frustrated, is that when you decide not to let something go to conference and keep trying to find something that everybody agrees on, the great thing about the Senate is that you have to get a coalition of people to be able to agree. And we were kind of short-sighted that ability because we couldn't even have a vote on it. Your question about whether, if the abortion initiative petition passes, should we then make it charter to change the Constitution because we're going to accidentally enshrine abortion in the Constitution? It's a really reasonable concern. I think that a lot of people share that concern. I don't believe that Missourians are going to vote for this abortion initiative petition. I don't think that we're going to see a change.
Tell me this. Why would the folks of Missouri vote no when Texas and Ohio voted yes by huge margins?
Because what we're seeing on the ballot isn't the same as what was put forward in those states. They have continually ratcheted up a more extreme version.
Who's going to fund a campaign to explain that to people?
Well, that's fair. Missouri Stands with Women is a group that I'm a part of. That has been
Stephanie
working.
Bell's group too?
Yep. Stephanie Bell is the spokeswoman for the group. And
it's going to be great. When they get rid of this bridge, she's going to have to move back to Cole County. We've been putting together a welcome home basket for Stephanie. It's going to be awesome.
But, we have been working on making sure that there's a strong coalition to fight that. And then Missouri Right to Life has also been fundraising for this effort as well. And so I think, again, those initial polls that we have seen out of Missouri on this ballot initiative are better than we saw in any other state. So
we're going to make a bet on this. We're going to bet a beer. I think end of the day, the thing passes. I don't think anybody dies. I don't think anybody reads all that minutia. All these lawsuits are over all that writing. I don't think anybody reads all that writing unless if you read that writing, you know exactly how you're voting on that. I think folks that are there to vote for their uncle who's running for sheriff or their person they go to church with who's running for county treasurer
or Mary Elizabeth
Secretary of State. I really think it's going to hurt your vote total in Audrain County. You're an anti-Mexican stand, but the rest of the 113 counties, they show up to vote for you. I think they don't read all that mumble. Everybody fights over every little jot and tittle. I just don't think that. I think people are like, okay. I bet you a beer it passes. You in?
I'm happy to be bought a beer.
All right. Well, I think you're going to end up buying the beer. You know the truth on that.
Good. Or you want to make the bet?
Yeah, I'll happy to buy if you win. And frankly, I kind of hope you do because to me it's not about abortion. I think if this failed and you're Secretary of State, can you tell folks, hey, I'm going to go. I happen to know you know the speaker very well. You served with him. Mm-hmm. I happen to know you know Senator O'Loughlin very well. To me, there's a way to come and say, okay, before this scratches it up again, let's set out in 2022. Mm-hmm. Let's just put on the ballot to change the process of the IP process, and let's go make the case to the public. You have an off cycle. You can even go to Lee Summit if you lose a bet and have to. But you can go to St. John and make that case.
Yeah, that's right. I do think that we're going to see this taken care of in the next cycle. I think people are ready to put this issue to bed.
I don't know, but if the abortion thing passes, I mean, aren't you kind of locked in the room with that abortion thing until you pass your own?
Well, listen, the Republican supermajorities are going to have ballot initiatives and to protect life in the state of Missouri immediately in every single cycle. So if you think things are about abortion now, just hold your horses.
Oh, damn.
Because if this passes, it's going to be all abortion all the time in the state legislature.
Cover your ears. Because, boy, I tell you. I do think that
it's going to be locked up in the courts for years. So this is the other thing, too. So people who say they don't want abortion decided by the courts, well, this guarantees that it will be in the courts and locked up there for years and years of litigation.
I've just never seen a serious issue like that that's better off for having a bunch of court challenges.
Yeah, or better off written by IP process. I think your electeds should be able to go through the process, have public comment, have people negotiate over the language and get a law that has to be signed by the executive branch. And that's what we've got.
Well, we're off to St. Thomas tonight. The Blair Oaks Bomber coming to St. Thomas. He'll be eligible for autographs before and after the game. We're going to lay a whooping on St. Thomas this evening. Where are you off to after this?
I am headed to Peebly, Missouri.
No, I'm going to get in trouble if I don't talk about you have a fundraiser here in town.
I
And
do.
if folks watching this, they can come out to the fundraiser. Where's it at?
It's at my office on High Street. So we've got a Midmo office right here on High
I
Street.
see it all the time.
Walk
I like
by,
it.
great big signs. You can pick one up. And if anybody who's paying attention wants a 4x8 and they're on a letter road or a big highway, let me know.
I see a picture of Curtis and Kella trying to take home their
Lincoln
sign.
like
It's like
this.
curled around. So you probably strap one on top of your car like a mattress.
Listen, I've got a Suburban seat. There's plenty of room, so
Oh,
I'll drive
nice.
it to you.
If folks want to sign, what's Seth's phone number? We'll just get that. No.
I will spare him that.
Well, because like most people, like I give Ashley Beck's phone number out, but you got the damn Palestinians to be honest. So where can they go if they want to sign? They wouldn't know more about
Yeah,
it.
go to MaryElizabethColeman.com. You can sign up for a sign there, and we'll get one to you right away.
Unless you're Palestinian, they will know that you're just going to throw it away and you ain't getting
Well, they're
one.
probably not on a letter road, are they?
I ain't never seen one. That is a true thing. I've never seen a protester at State Tech, and I've never seen a road blocking on a gravel road because it would get unblocked, I think, pretty quick. But anyhow, that's a nugget you can take and keep. We'll be back here tomorrow. Oh, what are you doing for lunch tomorrow? You gonna be putting up signs?
I don't know what I'm doing for lunch tomorrow.
You got all them kids. That's got to help put up
Actually,
signs.
tomorrow's Hayden's birthday. He's turning 16 years old.
I know what Hayden can do for his birthday.
I'm going to be at the DMV, so everybody on the roads, watch out. Hayden Coleman's getting his driver's license tomorrow.
Well, I have good news for him. If you're still in line, watch me and the governor at 12:15.
Okay.
Eat lunch with us, and if you'll text me, I'll ask the governor if he can cut line, and then see if Kelly or Aaron or somebody can call down to the Arnold DMV and let him slide in the side there, or Wayne or somebody.
I think we're going to the Festus one because they're the one. The Arnold one doesn't have driver's tests anymore.
Okay, what is your favorite part of Jeffco?
I mean, I love Jean's Country Club and Peebly,
Okay,
Missouri.
that's a great answer.
I also- my
I like
favorites-
Kimswick,
Joachim Creek and DeSoto.
DeSoto, good
No,
folks.
but listen, Joachim's Creek on a summer day with a cooler and a book and a folding chair, and the kids build dams in the rocks. That's about as good of a day as you can get playing in a Missouri Creek.
If you ever have 14 hours just handy, have Jay Nixon give you a tour of Jefferson County because it's going to take all 14. Yes, because it took it all 14 hours.
Maybe I should have my opponents do that before the election.
It trick you into that van with some candy. And next thing you know, he showed you the whole thing twice. Actually, once. It's very interesting until you look up and it's 9:30 at night and you're like, I've got kids and a family. Thank you so much for making the time. Best of
Thanks
luck.
for having
And we get to see you on TV.
Yeah, I'll be on Sunday.
Sweet. Stick around. This week in Missouri Politics, Sunday. The Senator's going to stick around with us and tape that. And tomorrow morning when you eat lunch with us. Governor Parson, we'll be talking hogs, dogs, and logs. We're talking all the things. He may get that veto stamp out or that sign-in pin. Talk about the Cattleman Steak Fry, which was an outstanding event. Deering always hits it out of the park. F-150 campaign tour is coming to Montgomery County, the home county of Andrew Bailey. I think it's Wednesday night. I have to get with Jerry. Wednesday or Thursday
I
night.
really missed my shot. I should have said Montgomery County. I was there on Thursday last week.
It's a great group of folks.
And they love Andrew Bailey.
I know. And nobody from Montgomery County went to Harvard, so you're totally safe. All good people. We'll see you guys tomorrow here at noon, Sunday on TV.